London Book Fair in Kensington, Olympia. There's so much going on. Let's go and explore.
The book fair is not only a place for writers, publishers and booksellers to discuss agreements. For example, in the Authors HQ, there are seminars running every hour which aim to help writers from their first manuscript to getting an agent or getting funding for their self-publishing book.
The idea is it's like The Voice, it's like X Factor. The idea is that it's a presentation by an author of their work. And then at the end of that 3 minutes, the agent criticised that work.
So once I left university, I was focusing on how can I make it successful, where do I belong in the world of illustration. So I just filled my time with working on self-directed projects as if I was being commissioned by people, and so that was not only preparing me for the eventuality of when I was commissioned, but also continuously improving my portfolio as well. So I found that when I targeted particular areas of illustration I was interested in, for example editorial, I would set myself editorial briefs, so I would read articles and illustrate them, and then you'd soon find that you'd start attracting those type of clients because you're creating the work that they're interested in. And I learned that the key was to, whatever you're working on, to do what you absolutely love to do, what gets you excited about it. You know, when you're asleep at night, what is the thing you can't wait to get up to work on?
What about your top hurdles that you had to sort of overcome? What did you?
One of the hardest things, and a lot of people may well say this, is combating that self-doubt that a lot of I think creative people have, and really in any industry I think it applies. Asking yourself the questions: am I good enough? Will this actually work? Because I was working for 2 years full-time, but continuously working on my own illustration work to no avail. I was doing private commissions here and there, but I was, my aspirations were for bigger things, working for companies and real editorial publications. And it took me about 2 years to get my first real, what I would consider my first professional illustration commission, and from there it's taken off. But I learned that it was by continuously working and never giving up. That is the hardest thing to do, to keep working, to keep going at it, and you might get knocked down, but you've got to keep going, keep working, and that is for me the only way that you'll find what you really enjoy.
But how do you face, as a creative sort of person, how do you face rejection and how do you deal with that?
But if you think there are so many people on this earth, not everyone is going to like the kind of work that you do, but that doesn't matter because there's still enough people that do enjoy your work.
Any final tips that you wanted to share with us and anything?
Do not stop working. Just never stop. Maybe take a step back and think, what do I really want to do? Who would be my dream client? Where do I belong in an agency or wherever it is? Finding that specific answer that you're looking for, and then almost working backwards from there, so you know where your end goal is, and then just figuring out the steps that will then lead you to that path.
Edward entertains the lords and throws a splendid hobble. He rolls and shakes those stumps around and turns a dandy wobble. It's years away to Bedlam days, perchance we'll blame the devil. Rick, my clothes, I am possessed, my hair's alarmed, dishevelled. Come to Cripplegate, come to Cripplegate, come to Cripplegate town.
I was also wondering if you could share, let's say, 3 most common mistakes that people do when they first start or when they apply for an internship.
I think that some of the mistakes that they make are, first of all, assuming that they're not the right person for the role. You know, that they might need to have a master's in publishing or something like that. If they're the right person for the job, then we'll give them the opportunity. And then I think once people start an internship, one of the most common mistakes is to think that that is a position that doesn't matter, but actually, we want interns to learn, and we want them to come and, if they have good ideas, we want to hear them.
What are the 3 tips that you would give for people who want to get into publishing?
When I first started, I worked in a bookshop, and that would be my number 1 tip. If you can work in a bookshop and see all of the books that are available there and learn how to sell a book to a customer, then it gives you a really good starting point to getting into the industry, and that's one that I think a lot of people don't think about. The other thing is, I would say, don't be afraid to engage with publishers, either on social media or just getting in touch, so that that we are aware of people who are interested. And simply having the courage to make that application, because obviously it's difficult and you won't hear back from everybody. There are a lot of applicants, but if you keep trying and show persistence, then it might be that there is an opening where 6 months previously there wasn't. So.
Whereas with mainstream publishing, the publishing would be funded by the actual publisher.
How much author input is there with the final product and the design and all the other things that are related to the book?
In terms of Matador, there's a huge amount of author input. Cover design, we ask the author for their initial ideas. We then create a cover draft, and we will only move on to actually designing the full cover once they have approved the cover draft. So the author gets a huge amount of input. The book does not go to print until the author has told us that they are happy.
What are the main mistakes that you think some authors have made in this process? Like if you've got maybe a top 3 or something?
Ooh, okay, so mistakes. I would say not doing your research on marketing and distribution is a mistake. A lot of authors they're so excited, they've got this finished manuscript and they want to get it out there, so they'll typeset it themselves, they'll find someone that can print it for them, and then they're left with a product that they can't market it and distribute, and retailers won't take it on because it hasn't been produced properly. So that's one mistake, is do your research in terms of the companies that can help you and how to market and distribute it, and what retailers expect in terms of the quality of the product that they will stock on their shelves. Another thing is do your research in terms of ISBNs, because they are not just a code that you put on the back of a book. There is bibliographic data management that goes on in the background, and they are essential to getting your book out there. So do your research or find a company that can help you. And I'd say the other one is don't overlook editing. Editing is a huge part. There's no point in having this beautiful product that you're so proud of and then you open page 1 and there's errors.
What advice or tips or even opportunities would you say there are for students that want to look into maybe working in self-publishing such as Matador or in other places?
Okay. One of our interns initially was there as maternity cover, so even if there's if you're looking for employment, even if there's a short-term contract, grab it. If it's a company that you genuinely want to get involved with, grab that opportunity, even if it's a temporary contract, because it might lead on to something more. Another thing is, if you are good at editing, if you do have some editing experience, get yourself registered with the Society for Editors and Proofreaders and start doing some freelance work, because we have some freelancers that we use, editors that we use on a freelance basis, that now they've been able to give up their full-time job and they now just do editing on a full-time basis because of the opportunities that we've given them. So that's another thing. You have to be a good editor, but if you are good, give it a go.
At this Learning Book Fair, we've interviewed various people from different sectors within publishing to give you a really good insight into what publishing is all about.